So something I've always struggled with is my well-being. And I feel like a lot of people are in this boat and can relate. And I often ask myself if I'm doing enough to take care of myself, how well am I doing on a day-to-day basis? And this story and my journey with this is meant to help you and hopefully support you. So this is my journey into sobriety. For many of you don't know, but I am sober, and I've been sober for 7 years. I say this loud and proud because it's the one thing that has really helped with my wellness and mental health. By no means am I telling you to go get sober or that anyone needs to be sober. This is just my own personal journey, and I hope it can help people whether you are sober or not. I'm Hospice Nurse Julie, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. You heard that correctly, I know. I do get a little nervous talking about this, if you couldn't tell, even though I'm very proud of my recovery and I've been sober for over 7 years. It'll be 8 years, February 4th, just FYI. But here's my story. Here is what happened, right? I wasn't always sober, obviously, and for years and years I have struggled with depression and anxiety and just an overall feeling of something is not right. Something is not right. To be honest, it surprises me as well. It surprises me even still to say that I'm an alcoholic, because in my mind, I know what an alcoholic is, which is not correct, but in my mind, I have a picture of what an alcoholic is, and that is not how I looked. Right? So I had a really hard time understanding and accepting that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. You know, in my mind, I had a grandpa who was an alcoholic and died an alcoholic death, meaning he died from alcoholism, basically. He lost the farm, he abused his children, you know, he was a neglectful father. That is what my mind had as what an alcoholic was, or someone who was in and out of jail and getting a ton of DUIs. Again, like nothing, no shade, no judgment, but that's just what I thought an alcoholic was. I was not those things. You know, 7 years ago or 8 years ago, before I got sober, I was nursing. I have not been to jail. I did not have DUIs, and I still had a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol. What helped me understand that I had a problem was I eventually, when I was 33, so I'm 40 now, when I was 33, I eventually could see that drugs and alcohol were getting in the way of my everyday life. You know, I could give you the whole gory detail of like, I started drinking when I was 13 and like all of the things I did when I was younger. To me, it felt normal-ish. It felt like I just lived this like party lifestyle. But as I got older and older, to me it felt a little strange. I could tell I was drinking differently than other people. I wanted to drink alone so I could drink how I wanted to, which was a lot and fast. I could tell it was getting in the way of my hopes and dreams and goals. But I would never have considered myself an alcoholic. Again, I had an image of what that was, and that wasn't me. You know, I still had a job, I still had friends. Again, like I said, I never went to jail. What I was trying to say was when I stopped drinking at 33, right? So there's a whole long story before all that, but at 33, I basically had enough, and I thought, I'm done. I'm going to, I didn't even say get sober. I just said I'm gonna stop drinking. I'm gonna stop doing casual drugs. I'm going to live this great life, you know, meet my full potential. I'm going to start working out. I'm gonna do all the endeavors I told myself I was going to do. And that's what I did. I stopped drinking. I stopped doing drugs. And let me tell you something. If you have a problem with drugs and alcohol, you know how you know? When you stop doing it. So I did not know what I did not know. But once I stopped using drugs and alcohol, I started seeing how much I used drugs and alcohol to do everything, to function, to live a life. I did not realize how much I had used drugs and alcohol to fully live. Like for a long time, it really helped me be at ease. It just helped with so many things, and I didn't even realize that. It was such an everyday of my life thing that once it stopped, I didn't realize how much I was really relying on it. That was my first clue. I still didn't think I was an alcoholic, but I was having a really rough time those first, I would say 30 days. I did it on my own. I didn't even really tell anybody I was quitting drinking. I had dreams every night about drugs and alcohol, which I thought was surprising. I would wake up in the middle of the night and crave weirdly warm vodka, which I never would normally even drink that, but I remember craving it so much and being surprised by having all of these really severe cravings that of alcohol that I wasn't really even drinking. I was mostly a red wine drinker, if you must know. But it was just surprising, right? I still, in those first 30 days, I still wasn't like, I need help, I'm an alcoholic. I just sort of powered through like I did with everything else in my life, right? I can do it. I'm like fiercely independent. It was miserable, if I'm honest. Now, cut to 11 months later. So almost a full year of no drugs and alcohol, with no therapy, no help, nothing, just me doing it. I had never been more mentally sick than I have been ever. And I have been very mentally unwell. So for me to say, I mean, in my early 20s, I was a total wreck. So for me to say that, to be dead sober, no drugs and alcohol for almost a year, and to be so unwell was shocking to me. It was like, I didn't think I would call myself an alcoholic or an addict, but I always knew I had a problem. There was something different with the way I drank and did things recreationally. So in that moment, it was like I had done the thing I wanted to do that I thought was going to change my life. I thought if I quit drinking, if I quit smoking weed, if I quit smoking cigarettes, doing all these different things, I'm going to be better. That's what I need to do. I'm going to be better. I'm going to do all the things I'm supposed to do. And 11 months later, that was not the case. And if anything, I was worse. If anything, I was more isolated. If anything, I was less motivated. If anything, I was more anxious and more depressed, and to the point where I felt hopeless. I remember feeling scared. Like, if this isn't it, if this isn't the thing that's supposed to help me, what the hell is? What is supposed to help me? Now, granted, this had been years in the making, so like I have tried therapy, I had tried medication, I had tried yoga and meditation retreats and Reiki therapy and church and, you know, like everything under the sun you can think of, silent retreats. I have tried. I have moved away. I have switched jobs. I had done all of the things I thought maybe this would help, and none of the things did. And then I finally did the last thing on my list because I didn't want to give it up. I finally quit drinking and using drugs. And now I'm still like this, and if not, I'm worse. Anyway, I say all of this because that is what brought me to my knees. That's what brought me down completely. It was like, I remember thinking and telling my sister, finally confiding in her, that I think I'm gonna start drinking again. You know, I quit for 11 months, nothing changed, I'm still freaking miserable, it didn't help, and fuck it, I'm just gonna start drinking again. Why do I care? Like obviously this didn't help, right? And she knows me well enough, thank God. Like she would just say like, well, at least you're going to work more, because I used to call out of work all the time, as a hospice nurse, PS. So she would try to pump me up. I think you're doing a little better. You seem better to me. Like, don't start drinking again. That's not the answer. There has to be another way, right? And I remember thinking, I don't want to start drinking again because I know I really can't. I know that will also be the death of me. But I knew I couldn't keep living like this without drinking and using drugs. So I didn't know what to do. And honestly, it never once dawned on me to get help. That is how independent I am, or want to be. It honestly never even crossed my mind to ask for help. Long story long, I saw a friend in the grocery store. She was an acquaintance. We went on a hike. I poured my heart out to her on this hike, and she happens to be in a 12-step program, not the one I'm in right now, but a different one, and said, I think you really should try to get some help with this. You sound like an alcoholic. And of course I was like initially offended and kind of like, what do you know? I'm not an alcoholic. That's insane, blah, 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 blah. But I was so desperate in the moment that I was like, fine, whatever, I'll do whatever you say. So I finally just went with her to this support group. I was terrified. I didn't say a word. I sat in the corner. It was a large support group, so I just sort of sat there and didn't really remember anything because I was too afraid. But that was the first step in getting help, and that's all it really took, because the next day I just looked for another support group of the same nature in my neighborhood, and guess what? There was one right down the street. For whatever reason, I think because I was desperate, I walked my butt down there by myself, and in that meeting was the first time I raised my hand and I said, I'm Julie, I'm an alcoholic, I think, and I need help. I have not drank for 11 months and I've never been so miserable. I feel like I'm gonna die. I need help. If you ask for help in support groups, and with 2 other people in recovery, you will get it. And that was my experience. I asked for help for the first time probably in my life, because I never asked for help. Don't do what I did. And I got it. And that took me on this journey of recovery. I continued to go to these groups. I continued to find people who are also in recovery, who helped me learn how to live a life in sobriety, how to fully live, how to help with the things that I would drink about. I do have underlining depression and anxiety and different mental health things that are real. Those are not real. In recovery, in these support groups, you can find a way to treat those things without using drugs and alcohol. So you can still feel the freedom, or at least for me, I used to feel freedom when I drank. I was like the freedom of the bondage of self, right? But in these groups, I could learn how to do that and get that same freedom without using drugs and alcohol. And I could finally learn how to not be so pent up, right? They always talk about being restless, irritable, and discontent. And I feel like that is me baseline. That's me baseline whether I'm drinking or not. And for a long time, drugs and alcohol helped me not be restless, irritable, and discontent. Now that I don't have drugs and alcohol, I was restless, irritable, and discontent a lot. And this program, these groups helped me learn how to not be that way. Tools, healthy tools to be more free, be more content, be more joyful in the moment. And this has transcended this now, 7 years later, here I am. It has transcended throughout my whole entire life. Like, I finally have this life that I was hoping I would get just by stopping drugs and alcohol, which has not been true for me. Now, that might not be for everybody, but for me, that didn't help. It's like my problem wasn't drinking, it was like my thinking. I still have an allergy to drugs and alcohol, where I have this personality where, like, if I like something, it makes me feel good, I want more and more and more of it, which is why I need to not do it. I still have that same personality, and I have a way to live with it in a healthy way where I can feel free and feel comfortable in my skin. And that's kind of all I ever wanted. I wanted to feel at peace. I wanted to feel comfortable in my skin. And recovery in sobriety and community in sobriety has given me all of those things. I think we really lack community in general in our lives, not just in sobriety, but in life. I think we need community to heal, or at least help us to heal. We're so individualistic. I mean, I am too. I totally get it. But this community that I have now has just helped me breathe easier and live better and love myself. I've learned how to have radical self-acceptance, radical self-love, radical self-forgiveness. Because of those things, I've been able to give that to other people. If I can radically love myself, I can radically love you. If I can radically forgive myself, I can radically forgive you. Or at least I try, right? If I can radically accept myself, I can radically accept you. And that is a really freeing way to go through life. And that is what sobriety has given me. Okay, if you've made it this far, number one, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. And I just want anyone out there, whether you're struggling with just mental health or addiction, either way, you are not alone. And there is help and there is hope out there for you. I know you have a friend in this, and I have linked some resources in the description of this video.